The hit the UK economy will take when the Queen dies. 63 years ago, on the 2nd of June 1953, Queen Elizabeth II was crowned in Westminster Abbey in London. But what's going to happen when her reign is over? Well, in Buckingham Palace, this is something that they call the bridge. This period will be the interval between the death of the current Queen and the succession of her son, Prince Charles. The bridge is something that is practiced so that everybody is prepared. After all, the Queen is now 90, so we know that the day will come. One thing we do know is that the bridge will be not as long as it was last time round. Last time, King George VI died very unexpectedly in 1952, and it took 16 months until the Queen was crowned herself. When the Queen dies, they're hoping that the bridge will be as short as possible, both for financial reasons and for other reasons I will go into now. Hopefully, the bridge will only last 3 months, and this is because Charles is very controversial. Let's face it, most Brits don't really like him anyway, but given his admitted adultery and the fact that he's married a divorcee, we're very worried that there will be a lot of Republican comments. Therefore, the faster the coronation, the less time people have to kick up a fuss. Also, the UK is at risk of losing many of its realms. These are the overseas territories which we have kept all these years. Many people right now love the Queen, but they do not have such an affection for Prince Charles. Yes, you've probably seen that Will and Kate have been travelling around the world. They've just been to India, and everybody seems to find them quite attractive. But when Charles is at the head of the throne, we risk losing a lot of countries like Jamaica, Australia, and the Bahamas, who might decide to get rid of the British monarch during the bridge period. If the Queen dies during the night, then her death will only be announced at 8 AM the following morning by the BBC, so no Twitter or Facebook feeds to update you. You'll have to wait for the good old BBC. At the moment, every BBC presenter has a spare black suit with black tie on standby just in case the Queen dies. This is because they have rehearsals every 6 months as well, and once a presenter was highly criticised because he wore a red tie instead of black. Currently, we expect that Huw Edwards will be responsible for making an announcement, as he's one of the more well-respected and well-established BBC presenters. Then, during the period between the death and the funeral, all comedy will be cancelled from the BBC for 12 days as a minimum. They reckon that it will take about 12 days to plan the funeral. The Queen has already signed off on most of her funeral, but for 12 days Britain will stop. And this is the economic impact that I'm rather concerned about. It's going to cost us billions. This is because the stock markets will close and banks will close for an indefinite period. Both the funeral and the coronation of Charles will become formal national holidays. Each of these have an estimated economic hit in GDP of between 1.2 and 6 billion pounds. This is in addition to the cost of the events, the security staff, the advertising. But what else? Well, some things might seem silly, but when the Queen dies and we change to having King Charles, or whatever name he decides to take, it's going to cost billions and billions. Charles and Camilla will have to move from Clarence House to Buckingham Palace, after, of course, a reasonable period of respect. Then the national anthem is going to change. It will be God Save the King, and all the books with the national anthem in, all the sheet music for people who play in bands, all of that will have to be changed. All of our coins and banknotes will need changing as well. Obviously, it will take a while for these to go into circulation, but everything needs to be changed. Did you know that every single MP will have to travel to London to swear allegiance to the new king? And what about public grief? Well, there'll be memorial books in loads of cities and flowers laid out near Buckingham Palace. when Princess Diana died, the flowers were 5 feet deep. So I suppose at least the florists are going to make a heck of a lot of money, at least more than they do on Valentine's Day. But then there's the cost of the new coronation. If we look at the price of Kate and William's wedding, that lost the economy between 1.2 and 6 billion pounds, and the coronation will be even more expensive. Also, the police will need new insignia on their helmets. So we're going to have to replace the police uniform because currently it has ER2 on the hat and on the arm of their uniforms. So we need to change that for the King's new regnal number. Also, military insignia will need updating because everything has ER2 on it, just like post boxes, they all have to be changed. But what about passports? All of our passports say, "The British passport currently requests and requires, in the name of Her Majesty, all those whom it may concern, to allow the bearer to pass freely without let or hindrance." So that will have to be changed to His Majesty, of course. And let alone if Brexit happens just before or after, that means we have to get 2 new passports, guys. But what about stamps? We have to change all the stamps because they all have the face of the Queen on right now, so everything needs the King's head instead. And what about Trafalgar Square? Did you know that there are the 4 plinths in Trafalgar Square, but one is empty? Well, it's waiting for a statue of Queen Elizabeth II. So, of course, someone is going to have to make that statue. And finally, what about the cost to our tourism? Every year, millions of people come to London because they want to see Buckingham Palace, to get a glimpse of the Queen, but all of that will be gone. And will people really want to come for King Charles? Thank you.